All right. Thanks, Ellison, and good morning, friends. It's so good to be with you today. The sub-practice I'm going to read is the community dimension of Discover Our Stories. We discover common interests and the public dimensions of our stories through organized, focused listening seasons within and between our communities. And my story today was inspired by a virtual gathering last night on Zoom with Catherine Hayhoe and some other faith leaders who were talking about Catherine's work and having a conversation around it. And I've listened to Catherine many times. I've read her books. She is a very inspirational and lovely person. And what I took last night from the talk, which is her consistent message, but last night it just really stood out, is the most important thing any of us can do about climate change is to talk about it. And she talked about the sociological research behind that. And she showed some amazing graphics, and I'll try to find the link to those and share those with you after the story, about how even in Oregon, as I looked at my context, we don't talk about it enough. And there's all this data about how we accept climate change. We know it's human caused. We know it's causing harm right now. And there's a little bit of variation, between those things, but they're all well into the, significant majority level. And then struggling way down below the majority level is our willingness to talk about it. And the reason that stuck out to me so much is that in this space, we talk about climate change every Thursday morning at 8:45. And so I feel like I talk about climate change all the time. And I'm not talking to you about it, I'm talking to other folks about it, because these are the spaces that we're in. And it struck me that one of the things that become patterns for me anyway, and maybe for others, is to be in these spaces and lose track of how permeable our walls are, and whether we're getting outside of our spaces and whether others are coming into these spaces. And it's wonderful for us to talk about climate change with each other. And I know we all go out into our communities and we talk about climate change with other people. And in that sense, this is a very permeable meeting. But I'm also thinking, well, why is our percentage of people who talk about climate change still so low? And what are we missing in our organizing practices and in our EcoFaith practice of developing and sharing our stories, and in Catherine's understanding that talking about climate change is the most important thing any of us can do? And I think it comes down to evangelism and the difficulty of moving into new spaces and talking about things that are difficult and talking about things that make others uncomfortable and that we may be uncomfortable doing. And so all of that is a meta story for trying to think about how we tell our EcoFaith, 30-second to 1 minute elevator speech in a way that would be compelling and that would be comfortable for us, and that would help break through those permeable walls so that others can hear our stories and share in the EcoFaith's work. And I haven't got a practiced elevator story, but I'm going to try to make one up on the fly here. And so here goes. EcoFaith Recovery for me is a wonderful community of dedicated and lovely individuals who come together regularly to share stories, to develop relationships, to learn more about each other and the communities we serve, and to do our part to act together to prevent dangerous climate change. There are 7 practices for awakening leadership that you can see on ecofaithrecovery.org. And those practices, when you do it every week, become part of your life and part of your formation. And the way to really get into EcoFaith recovery is slowly and gradually, and to give your time and yourself to the work and the practices. And if you do this, your life will be changed, and it will be changed for the good. That's it.